Hey, assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about why looking poor is important for Muslims and why it is so good for your wealth building. Welcome to Simple Muslim Money, which is all about simple halal investing and personal finance for Muslims. So what do I mean by looking poor? And this is something that's quite big on YouTube at the moment, and it's about getting off that treadmill of always buying the next thing. So, you buy a new car, and then once you've had that car for a while, you then feel like you need to buy the next new car. Or if you have a phone, you then feel like you need to buy the next new phone. And you usually get bored of it after a while, and that's why you want that next new thing and get that next hit. Or, if you go on holiday, you spend a lot of money, then you forget about that holiday, then you want to go on another holiday, and sometimes people go into debt and things like that. And this is where the problem arises. And this is something I've heard, talked a lot about online. And I came across this term called hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill, which is basically like once you have something, you kind of get used to it after a while, and then you just kind of don't notice it. The other thing is that things lose money, and this is what can affect your wealth building ability as well. So, you buy a new car, it loses a lot of money individually. When you buy a new phone, it loses money. So it's really important to kind of be aware of that and to try and keep things for as long as possible. So for example, we bought a car a couple of years ago now because our previous car, the BMW, just had so many problems and it was so expensive to maintain. So now we've kind of moved on to a Lexus, which is meant to be more reliable. I was thinking about doing a Toyota, but my wife really did not want to drive a Toyota, so we kind of compromised with the Lexus. But our plan is to have that Lexus for a long time. I'm talking about 10 years, maybe even longer, just try and grind it down to the ground. And by doing that, we're going to kind of save money in the long run. Another thing is that the more you spend, or even the more you earn, your happiness sort of stays the same. So if you're spending a lot of money and you're working really hard to make that money, your happiness will still kind of be the same. So why spend all that money if you can use it to build your wealth? And as I said before, for example, you might have a big house. I remember when we moved into our house, you kind of get used to it after a while. At first you move in, like, wow, it's amazing and things like that. But, there's a lot of maintenance and stuff involved with that house. And one of the key things that probably most people know sort of inherently is that, we want to spend less than we make. And ideally, we want to increase that gap between our income and our expenses. And with that extra money, we can kind of save or invest it or, use it on things that we really need or really value. Another big important thing about that is it reduces that financial anxiety. Like if I've got all of these car payments, if I've got debt payments and things like that, it just adds a lot of anxiety. And I remember when I had a lot of payments and stuff I had to do, and it really affected my sleep as well. And there's nothing, no price you can put on a good night's sleep, being able to sleep peacefully at night, and having all these financial burdens can really affect that. So that's why this whole concept of looking poor makes a massive difference. I remember when I was in university and I think phones were just kind of getting really popular at that point. So it shows you how old I am. I'm like hitting my mid-40s now. And I was really wary of getting a mobile phone because I knew you get into these monthly contracts, some of them are like £10-20. And back then that was like a lot of money, and I didn't have a job or anything like that. And it was only when mobile phone companies came out with pay-as-you-go SIMs. So you just pay, so you just top up credit. And I thought, okay, I can actually deal with that now. And that kind of just really helped in terms of financial anxiety, rather than having this 10, 20, 30 pound bill that I have to pay every month. And a big thing about all of this is just simplicity of life. When you've got too many things going on, your brain and everything kind of just gets cluttered. You're busy looking after stuff, maintaining stuff. And by having less things and you're not just spending lots and lots of money on all these big flashy things, means the less headache you have to deal with. Which leads me on to my next point, which is that the more stuff you have, the more upkeep. In our house, we've got so much to clean, so many things to put away. The more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to kind of look after. And then you need storage, and then people end up buying storage in external places like these where you can hire storage for a month and things like that. And those things are just it's just a headache, just the more stuff you have. But also, that upkeep and the maintenance cost of all of this stuff. So, if you have a big house, people hire cleaners, or your electricity bills might be really big. Your gas bills might be really big. Your heating bills, all of that sort of stuff just kind of adds up. Or if you need a little bit of work done, then, that's going to cost you more. If you've got really complicated things going on in your house, like really fancy windows or really complicated electric setup, then if one thing breaks, and it costs you a lot of money to maintain. Or if you've got a really expensive car as well, I remember at BMW, it was just like £80-90 just to have, for them to diagnose the problem, just to have a look at the problem. And even then, I had so many issues where I had to keep taking it back and problems with the car. So that's why I decided to go for the Lexus, which is meant to be more reliable. And so far, alhamdulillah, it's been really good for us. Another thing about looking poor is that, if you're trying to impress people, that will decrease your wealth. You're trying to buy the next thing. You're trying to say, well, look, I'm at this phase of my career, so I need to show a certain thing to other people around you. But most people don't really care. And also, as Muslims, we should not be showing off. That's one of the things I remember kind of reading a lot about. So something to be very sort of careful of. Another thing to be aware of is like your ego will kind of decrease your wealth. You feel like, oh gosh, okay, I can't buy that brand of clothes anymore. I need to buy this brand of clothes, or I can't go to H&M anymore, and I need to be going to Hugo Boss or Armani or something like that, or more high brand. That's not the case at all. I wear some general stuff. I mean, this t-shirt actually is a polo one, but I got it on a discount. I've had it for years and years and years. So, that's why I'm kind of happy wearing that, and it's kind of lasted me a long time. But if I feel like, oh, you know what, I've had these t-shirts for 1-2 years, I need to just move on and get better t-shirts, more quality and stuff. But yeah, there's no point. I remember hearing this quote, I can't remember exactly where it was, like, no one cares who's driving the Ferrari. They just kind of see the Ferrari. So sometimes you think, if I'm driving a Ferrari and I look cool and stuff like that, people don't really care. No one cares. They actually like the Ferrari. They don't care who's inside it. Another thing about looking poor is just that freedom of choice. You're not bound by all these payments and stuff you have to do. Like, I have to pay for my car, I have to pay for this, I need to keep this job, I need to work this hard, I need to do that. Like, the less expensive stuff you have, the more flexibility you have. I could potentially go on holiday here, or, I could spend money on this thing, or I can, donate to this charity, or there's so many things you have. But when you tie down by all these commitments, like, I've got this debt to pay for my credit card, debt to pay for my holiday, debt to pay for my wedding, debt to pay for, I've got these car payments to pay for, my mortgage payments to pay for, I got my kids' education to pay for. All of these things just kind of just swamp you, and it's kind of adds to that vicious cycle of anxiety and not being able to sleep at night, and just has like much bigger impact. Another thing I'm trying to do is, like, instead of spending money on these other things, kind of spending money on my education, trying to learn, like, paying for software, buying, like, camera equipment, which has been like a massive asset for this kind of YouTube channel, and trying to pay for training courses and things like that. These are going to give me value that will then kind of pay themselves back multiple times. And finally, I want to talk about, like, you don't want friends based on money. You don't want friends to like you just because you're rich and just because you've got a lot of money. And I remember when I was young, there were some kids in our school, or I think they went to my Islamic school, and we used to like going to their house just because they had so many computer games and stuff like that. But was I truly their friend? Did I really want to be their friend? No, I was only going there just to play the games and things like that. And, and that's not fair to them. That's not right for me to be doing stuff like that. I was a kid back then, so yeah, please forgive me for that. But yeah, it's just something to be with. You don't want people to be with you if they generally don't want to be with you, and they're there just because of your money. So yeah, just want to say thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please check out this other video where I talk about the problem with the FIRE movement for Muslims.